Blood, falls, stitches, the ER, but the show must go on. Hey there, Fiber Junkies! Welcome back to the Color Cauldron. I'm Johanna, the owner and dyer behind Potion Yarns and host of this podcast. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for joining us, and returning viewers, welcome back. I was not actually sure that this video was going to happen this week because I had a little mishap earlier. If you follow me on social media, you've already heard the story and seen the video right after my accident that I had this week. But for those of you who missed it, let me just give you a quick recap. Earlier this week, I was walking up the stairs in my house, which is over 100 years old and has all hardwood floors. And because of its age and the fact that there are no right angles or level spaces in my entire house, I'm convinced, the stairs are not super duper even, and they're very slippery on the edges, and I missed a step or stepped like right on the edge. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but somehow I fell down the stairs, and it was only like 3 stairs, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but I did that kind of thing where you like lose your balance and you kind of like ski down the stairs a little bit. So I pitched forward, and my forehead went right into the door frame that was right across from the stairwell. And I managed to hit it right on the corner, of course. So there was blood everywhere. And my husband is still out of town for business right now. He's been gone for about 3 weeks. So I was alone, and it was late at night, and there's just blood everywhere. And I was trying to clean it up and decided that because it was a head injury, and because I am now in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy, and because I could not get the bleeding to stop, and it kept running in my eyes, and I was having a really hard time like even looking at the wound to see how bad it was because it was bleeding so much. All of those things combined to tell me that I should probably just go get it checked out at the doctor. So I ended up calling my neighbor, who graciously came over and drove me to the ER. And my midwife and my sister met me down there after I'd been there for a little bit and were able to bring me home. So I had plenty of great support that took care of me while hubby was out of town, but it was very scary. I managed to not fall on my stomach or anything, so baby's totally fine. He was, I don't think, even very affected by the fall. He seems to be completely fine and doing great. I'm doing okay now, a lot better once I got to the ER and got cleaned up, but it was scary and difficult, and unfortunately I had to have 5 stitches put into my forehead. So I've never thought of myself as accident prone, but I was telling some of my longtime clients at the hair salon this week the story of why I have a Frankenstein scar on my forehead, and several of them were like, "Didn't you just recently fall down the stairs? Haven't you done that before in that house?" Well, yes, thank you. I have indeed done that. Thank you for pointing out how incredibly clumsy I am now. I apparently have problems walking upstairs. I was like devastated that I cut my face open because the doctor said, you know, it's probably gonna scar. And yes, I've had a lot of great suggestions from the doctor and my midwife, as well as from lots of friends and family and customers sending me ideas for different topical creams and vitamin E oil and things like that that can help reduce the scarring. So I do feel pretty confident that it will be not terribly noticeable once it heals up and I put some of those topical creams on. But I'm a very vain person, and I was like, I don't mind a little scar here and there, but like this is pretty big and it's right in the center of my forehead. So it's like very noticeable. So the first couple days I was kind of devastated about it, and then I don't know, Thursday, I was feeling a little bit better, and I just decided to take a really pragmatic view of it and decided that A, it kind of makes me look badass, and B, it's not that big a deal. It's really not. I think that it probably won't be that noticeable once the stitches come out, and I am going to use a lot of the ideas that people have given me to reduce scarring, and I feel confident that that will help. And so I decided that while I have the stitches in and I look like Frankenstein minus the bolts in my neck, I might as well go ahead and record it for posterity and have a podcast. So here you go. You guys get to see my lovely scarred face in all its glory. My stitches will come out in about 3 more days, so I'm just gonna hang tight and go ahead and film the podcast for now. I actually finished a project recently that I'm super excited about because A, I was using gorgeous yarn that was very, very special, and B, it was something I started like way back in January, I think. January or February, I started a project and I showed it on the podcast, and then I put it down and didn't work on it for months and months and kind of forgot about it, and then got it back out and was like, oh, I had second sock syndrome really bad, except they're not socks, they're gloves. But I had like, I don't want to do the second one. I'd finished the first one, hadn't blocked it, but I'd finished it, and I was like, I do not want to do the second one, like at all. And so it took me a while, but I finally got in the like, just put your head down, grit your teeth, and power through so that you can finish it. And once I started working on it, I actually had a blast and was like, oh, this is really fun again. And I kind of am glad I took the breaks so that I didn't have to worry about it. But that project was my Cotillion Armwarmers. So not really gloves, but arm warmers. There's no fingers that you have to knit, which is part of why I love it. I love gloves and fingerless gloves and mittens and anything for your hands, but I detest knitting fingers on gloves. Like, I don't know why, they're just fiddly. They're not even that hard. I just hate them. And I always feel like I leave holes around the base of the finger, although I haven't attempted any for a while and I'm a better knitter now, so maybe I'd do better. Maybe I would do okay. But I was really happy that these didn't have any fingers that I had to worry about. You just do a little crochet loop that goes around your middle finger to hold them on. And then these are like opera length, which means they go all the way up past your elbow to like the middle of the top part of your arm. And they have a lovely, beautiful lace that opens up really nicely when you block them. I'll show you this yarn up close. This yarn came from, again, I cannot pronounce this. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, so I apologize to the shop owner if I am butchering their name. But I think it is Keimaries Knit-Knacks or Keimaries Knit-Knacks. I'm not sure how you say it. But I showed this yarn on the podcast back last November in 2018. I went to a yarn show down in Texas, and this indie dyer was there, and I had never heard of them before, but their yarns were stunning. Like, everything in their booth was gorgeous. And I fell in love with this particular one. I'm suddenly blanking on the name of it, but it's a sparkle sock yarn, so superwash merino nylon and stellina, which I'm a sucker for a sparkle. And then it's got this really gorgeous, like, I would almost say it's like a goth rainbow. Like, it's very dark and lots of black and dark gothy colors, but it's also got these flashes of pale blues and aquas, chartreusey greens, really deep vibrant pinks, and some light and dark purples. It's just beautiful. And they told me when I bought it that it was actually dyed by I believe he's 8 or 10, something like that, dyed by the son of the indie dyer, so a little boy, and I got to meet him. He was in the booth, and I was like, dude, you're really good, and he just blushed and got all happy, and so I'm really happy that I was able to get his colorway. Oh, I just remembered what it's called. It's called Waracorn. And it's stunning, and I just thought it was beautiful. So I only got the one skein from them because I was on a very tight budget, but I'm really happy that I picked this skein up, and it was a very special yarn to me just because I thought it was so beautiful. It was like my soul colors all in one, and it was a little bit of a splurge for me. It was a souvenir from my weekend, and it was dyed by this really cute little kid that I got to meet. So I have had a lot of fun knitting with it, and so yeah. I love this yarn. I will try to put a link. I'll see if I can find their website. I believe I linked to it back when I showed the yarn originally. So I'll see if I can find their website and put a link to it, or a Facebook page or some way that you can get a hold of them, because I had never heard of this indie dyer before meeting them at the show, but they're very, very talented. And the pattern that I used for these arm warmers is called the Cotillion Armwarmers, and it comes from the Knitting Wizrardry book, which I've reviewed on the podcast before, and I have showed a couple patterns from it. We've talked about it quite a bit on here. It's basically a collection of fantastical and fantasy-inspired projects that are inspired by a variety of stories, but things like Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings and things like that. There's no like specific references. It's not like you're gonna knit the scarf from Harry Potter or knit a cloak that Gandalf would wear or something. It's not that. It's not branded for specific stories, but they're you get the feeling looking through them. You're like, this looks like something that they'd wear in Harry Potter. This looks like something you would knit while you're watching Lord of the Rings or wearing to the Renaissance Festival or to a LARPing event or something. They're very like fantastical and fun. Everything is about like wizards and witches and fantasy worlds and unicorns, and it's a lot of fun. If you missed my book review about it, go back and check through the old videos from just a couple months ago. I had a book review where I showed a couple of the patterns, talked about the book, talked about what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and it's one I highly recommend. And I'm super excited to finish those arm warmers because I have started like 4 projects out of that book, and this is the first thing I've finished. It only takes 1 skein of fingering weight yarn, so if you have like 390 or so yards, and you know, that's what they say in the book. They used Madeline Tosh for the pattern in the book, which is 395 yards of sock yarn. I didn't even use, I think my skein was like 430 yards or something. I probably only used about half the skein. So I'm trying to decide, because this yarn is so special to me and I love the colors so much, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to use the other half skein for, but I definitely don't want it to go to waste, so I'm thinking I might make like a little hat or something, because I love it. It's absolutely stunning, and I want to make something really special that I will actually get wear out of. Sometimes I make cute little like lacy neck warmers and things that seem like a good idea for leftover yarns, but I don't wear them very often, and I really want this to be something I will actually wear. So I'm thinking maybe like a hat or something else small like that. That would be really, really fun. The next thing I finished is my Soldotna Crop. I'm so happy with it, you guys. Oh, I can't even believe it. It's so adorable and gorgeous. I chose this pattern for 2 reasons back in June when I was casting on something new. First off, when I chose it, it had been really, really popular and everybody was knitting it already on Instagram for like a couple weeks. I've been seeing everyone knitting these up, and they were like, it goes so fast and it's so cute and fun and it's so many great color combos. So it was really, really popular. So I thought, well, that'll be a good shop sample and it'll be good to like work on, you know, I like to work on popular patterns as long as I like them so that I can, you know, use hashtags on Instagram and show off what I'm working on and things like that. But I also chose it because, being pregnant and never having done this journey before, I was not sure how big I was going to get, how much my body would change. I don't know what my body's going to look like afterwards, so I'm really hesitant to invest a lot of time and money in patterns that I'm not going to know I'm not going to know if they're going to fit or how they're going to look after the baby's born. I have high hopes that it won't be too terrible getting my body back, but I'm also trying to be realistic and practical and be like, okay, your body's forever changed after that, so even if it goes back to like the same or close to the same weight, it might not be the same proportions, and you know, all that stuff. And I'm trying to be very, very gentle on myself and be like, don't rush yourself, you know. But I don't want to invest a lot of time and energy and money right now into knitting a really fitted little vintagey tight sweater or something very form-fitting if I'm not sure I'm going to get to wear it. So I chose the Soldotna because it's a crop sweater. So I figured it doesn't matter if it doesn't cover my belly because it's not supposed to. I can probably wear it now, except for the fact that it's so hot out. But hopefully in another month or so I can still put it on. And it also had, I didn't make mine with as much ease as they recommended in the pattern, but it does have quite a bit of positive ease, so it's not meant to be very tightly fitted. It's meant to be a little bit more swingy and open. And while I did reduce the amount of ease in mine, I definitely liked that it had quite a bit of ease, even with the using smaller numbers than they recommended, because that way if my boobs change size, I've got a little bit of leeway and I don't have to worry about it being too tight across the bust. So I am thrilled with how this thing turned out. And the other reason I chose it was because I was wanting to work on it at a couple of shows I went to in June, and I wanted to use yarns from my shop and show off color work because I adore color work, like stranded work, Fair Isles, stranded knitting, etc. Is one of my favorite techniques to do. And I don't get to do a ton of it with my indie dyed yarn because sometimes they're so busy that the colors and patterns get lost. And so I was really wanting to show off that you can use indie dyed yarns like speckles and things and semi-solids to create really gorgeous color work. It doesn't always have to be, you know, plain solid yarns only for color work, and it doesn't have to be only that we use crazy variegated yarns for indie dyed yarn, you know? So I thought this was a great example of that, and I just love the colors that I picked out. I used my Celtic DK, which is a tweed DK, for the top color in Entwifery, which is a really great dark barky brown tonal. And then the main body color, this mustardy yellow color, is actually an early prototype of a color that I am reformulating. So I have an old color from my shop called Brass Goggles that had a lot more green to it, and I wasn't happy with it. I don't like how they've changed a couple of the dyes. The manufacturers I buy dyes from, one of them has changed a couple of their dye recipes recently, and so I've had to rejigger a bunch of my old recipes, and I didn't really love the old one anyways, so I've been playing around with it, and this was one of the early versions. I think this was the third version I'd done. I like it, but I didn't love it as much as another version that I've done since then. So this exact one isn't going to be available, but something very, very close to this color is coming back to the shop very soon. So this is kind of like an oopsie version of Brass Goggles, and I just wanted to use up my oopsie skein. And then I love, love, love this pink. This was actually another oopsie that I only had one skein of. It actually got a couple too many rounds of pink. It was a color called Love Juice in my shop, which is also being reformulated right now, but it got a couple accidental dips into some pots that it wasn't supposed to go into, and there was only one skein of it, so I used it for my color work because I just loved the bright pinky purple. And then the background of the speckle here that's white with little beige and peach and orange and brown speckles is Brave New World, which is a color that's been in my shop for a long time. And I just loved how these looked together. I had so much fun like picking out colors for this. There's so many different color combos you could do that would look awesome. I cannot wait to wear it, but it is sweltering around here, and I am in the 3rd trimester now, and I'm having hot flashes like you don't even want to know. So there is no way I'm putting this thing on. I thought about even putting it on for the podcast, and I was like, sorry, it's not happening. I can't even handle it for like 5 minutes. I am way too hot. For what I'm working on, I am coming along beautifully on my Honey Bop Cal. The Honey Bop cardigan that I'm knitting is from Amy Appel. She's Poison Girl, I think Poison Girls on Instagram. I'll put a link to her Instagram below so you can join in the cal, if you want to. Although we are getting close to wrapping up. This started July 1st, and it's a knit along. For those of you that don't know what a cal is, it means knit along, K-A-L. And she's just doing this knit along on Instagram and Ravelry, so if anybody wants to join, they can. If you're a fast knitter, you could still technically join now and probably finish it before the September 1st deadline. And of course, you can knit this pattern. It's not just available for the knit along. It is in her shop, and you can knit it on your own time whenever you want. But if you are wanting to join the knit along, it does end September 1st. And I had planned to be done with this project already by now because I am a pretty fast knitter, and this is a fairly simple stockinette cardigan with just some ribbing and some really cool shaping. But I got a little bit hung up, mostly because I was working on other projects. Phoebe is having way too much fun down here. She's trying to get on camera again because she likes to steal the show every single time. She's always got to come over and do something crazy. But anyways, I had some other projects I was working on, and then I don't know, I just kind of ended up putting it down for a little bit and not working on it for several days in a row and focusing on other things and then getting really busy and not knitting a whole lot. And so I just picked it back up again about 4 days ago and have been going like gangbusters on the sleeves. So I finished the first sleeve, and the body and button band are all done, and I'm on the last sleeve. Once I finish this sleeve, I'm just going to need to lightly block it, weave in the ends, and pick out some buttons. I still don't know which buttons I'm using, and I should have picked those out before I did the button band so I could make sure that my holes were, Phoebe, stop it, that my holes were large enough, but I didn't. I'm really, really bad about doing that. I have a tendency to just go and buy buttons afterwards and just see what fits and what looks good, but yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. I adore this color. This color also comes from my shop, and it is called Day Drinker. It's a semi-solid tonal dye that I do with just all these gorgeous shades of aqua blue and turquoise, and I absolutely love it. It's very, very like poolside summery kind of a color, and I'm so excited to make this cardigan. So yeah, my favorite thing about this and what makes it distinctive, of course, are these cute little puff sleeves, and I really love how Amy designed the way that she has you knit the sleeves. The construction of the sleeves is really not difficult, but really interesting. You definitely need to pay attention to where you are. If you're not comfortable with short rows, you might want to skip this pattern because there are a lot of short rows to create the sleeves and even some in the body. But short rows aren't that difficult. You just have to pay attention and really follow your instructions if you're not familiar with them. But I absolutely love how she did her sleeves for this pattern. I'm trying to decide if it's, I feel like the general idea of how she did the sleeves isn't that revolutionary. It's like I've done them in other patterns, but there's something different about the way she does it, and it might just be the little puff sleeve that she did differently that I love so much, but I love it, and I feel like she did a much better job of shaping all the way down. I've had trouble before where they just shape the top of the cap here, and then you knit in the round down, and she does the same kind of like short row shaping, but she really does great construction around the entire armhole. It goes all the way down, so there's no gaps or holes, and you have this really pretty little line of short rows going down the side, and it just fits so beautifully. Can you tell I like this pattern? I'm raving about it because it's really, really good. So that's what I'm working on right now. But the other thing I've been working on a lot lately is a baby blanket. I'm probably going to get a lot of hand knits and crocheted and sewn and other little handmade items for the baby because I have a lot of people in my life that are crafters and they're excited about making things for the baby, and I've had some lovely customers who have offered to send me some wonderful things too, which I'm really excited about. I love handmade gifts, so I am thrilled that everybody is blessing us with so many wonderful gifts. So I'm anticipating getting a few, and I've already received a couple, but I thought about it and I was like, I probably don't need to knit anything for the baby because I'm probably going to get a lot of like hand knit baby items, and I don't knit for babies a ton because I'm not a baby person usually. I've knit for a few friends' babies and like a couple relatives, but I don't knit a lot for babies. And so I was like, I don't know if I even need to do anything. I wasn't going to, but baby fever got to me and I decided, you know what, I don't care if we have too many baby blankets. I don't care if he never even wears some of this stuff. I just want to knit it because I'm excited, and it's a good way for me to channel my excitement, and it's fun, and I just think it'll be really cool and exciting. Also, there's not as many little boy patterns in the knitting world that are cute to me and fit my personal taste as much as there are little girl patterns. I feel like there's a gazillion little girl patterns, so of course I'm having a boy because I really wanted to knit these cute little vintagey baby dresses and booties and frilly bonnets and boleros and all that stuff, and instead I'm getting a little boy, which I am excited about, but their patterns aren't as cute. But I did find a really great baby blanket, and I had several people recommend that I do green because I'm doing kind of like a woodsy theme for a forest theme for our nursery. That totally makes sense, but the walls are all green, and we have a lot of green stuff already happening in that room, and so I decided I wanted to do one of our accent colors for his baby blanket. And one of our accent colors we picked was like a deep eggplanty purple. And so I got this yarn. This is just from Knit Picks. It is their Swish Worsted, which is a superwash merino, and it's nothing super fancy, and it's affordable and washable, which is why I went with Knit Picks. Affordable and washable is good. And so I am knitting this baby blanket, and it is a really dark color, but it shows the pattern well enough if you get close, and I really, really love this pattern. This is the Thorn Baby Blanket, and it comes out of the book Fairy Knits, which I have talked about on my, on my Instagram and Facebook channels. And I'm really liking this pattern. It's very, very easy to memorize once you pick up the basics, so you don't have to keep referring to the chart. So I actually knit this on the plane last weekend when I went out to visit my husband in Boston. I was knitting this on the plane quite a bit because I'd gotten to the point where I remembered the chart enough that I could just look at what was on my needles already and figure out where I was and keep going. And it was really, really nice having it to work on in Boston and on the plane. And it's been really great in the evenings when I'm all done and I'm really tired and I just want to turn on Netflix and veg out. It's a really good thing because it's interesting enough, it keeps my interest, but it's not so difficult that it's hard for me to keep up with it. So I'm loving that. The only bad thing is there's like a gazillion stitch markers. And you probably wouldn't need this many, but they recommend using this in the pattern, and I just followed their recommendation. And I think it's actually a good thing because it's the same small pattern, but you do it over and over and over down the row because it's a wide blanket. And so having each repeat broken up by stitch markers is really helpful, because then if you get off in your stitch count, which I've done a couple of times, you only get through like the next round of stitch markers, so you only go like another 10 stitches or so, and then you're like, wait, something's not matching up, it must be in the last couple of groupings of stitch markers. So it's a lot easier to find mistakes and fix them before they get really, really big and throw your whole pattern off and you have to go back and undo an entire row of over 200 stitches. So I'm really, really liking it. It is a worsted weight, so it's a pretty squishy, bulky kind of blanket. It'll be really great this winter, but it is a little toasty for knitting right now, so mom's a little toasty. But overall, it's going really, really great. And the color is called Eggplant. So yeah, if you're looking for a great baby blanket wool or baby item, I highly recommend the Swish Worsted from Knit Picks. It is really great. It is machine washable. It's sturdy. It comes in a lot of colors. I really like it. Okay, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. I'm actually working on more than one other thing, but I only have one other one I'm going to show you right now. And that is some spinning that I've done. So I got a new spinning wheel about 3 weeks ago, which I talked about, or maybe 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, somewhere in there. I've talked about it on my Instagram and Facebook. I don't think I've mentioned it yet on here. Or maybe I did. I might have mentioned it last week. But anyways, I got a new spinning wheel, in case you didn't know. I've never had a spinning wheel in my life. I just learned how to spin on a wheel for the first time the weekend before 4th of July this year, so just about a month ago. And before that, I had only spun on a drop spindle, and I wasn't super good at it. I didn't practice a whole lot. I would put it down for like months at a time, then pick it back up and try to get back into it. And I love my drop spindle, but I'm very slow at it, and I never felt like it was going super smoothly, and I was having a hard time. The yarns that I had finished, I was having a really hard time envisioning actually using them for anything, so they've just been sitting around as like, hey look, I made this cool skein of yarn, and now I don't know what to do with it. So I loved the class that I took for spinning on a wheel. It was super, super exciting, and I quickly learned that wheels come more naturally to me, and I just like them better. So even though I still love my drop spindles and I'm not going to stop spinning on them, I am really enjoying learning about spinning on a wheel. But I am very, very new. So this is my first bobbin that I spun on my first wheel. Technically it's not my first bobbin ever, because in the class I took, it was an all-day class, and we ended up spinning 2 separate bobbins, not quite this full, and then plying those 2 together to make 1 skein of yarn. It was really awesome, and I was impressed that we got all that done in 1 day, but I'm going a little bit slower at home because I don't have just hours and hours to spin on my wheel right now, so I'm doing a little bit in the evenings. But this is the first bobbin that I finished on the wheel. So this is my first bobbin on my own wheel, and technically it's my second time spinning if you count the class. As you can see, there's a lot of like over twisted little bits, but I posted some pictures on a couple of groups I'm on Facebook for spinners, and everyone was so sweet and encouraging and kept saying, that looks amazing for your first time, that looks so good, and don't worry about it, you'll fix it in the plying stage or whatever, and it's art yarn, don't worry about it. And I'm not worried about it. I didn't feel offended, or I wouldn't have, if I was embarrassed about it, I wouldn't have posted the pictures, because I'm that kind of person where I'm like, I'm not going to open myself up to more embarrassment. If I don't feel comfortable posting this, or if I'm embarrassed about people being criticizing, I generally won't post it. So I posted it because I was actually really proud of it, and then everyone was like, don't feel bad, honey, and I was like, I don't feel bad, I feel great, actually. I'm really proud of it. I know it's not perfect, and I know it's not like amazing, but I would usually just say something like, it's far from perfect because I'm a brand new spinner, I'm a baby spinner, but I'm really happy with it. So the fiber that I'm using is a superwash merino. Actually, I can't remember if it's superwash. It's either superwash merino, or it might just be a plain merino, like a non-superwash. Either way, it's a merino wool, and I bought it at the Yarn Barn in Lawrence, and it's from Malabrigo. I'm sorry, I do not remember the colorway, and I did not save the tag or anything, but it's a Malabrigo wool, and then I mixed it in with a few little neon, there's some bursts of neon pinks and yellows and stuff in here. Every so often I'd add a tiny bit of neon yellow and pink and whatever else I had from a rolag that they gave me at the Yarn Barn as well to practice on. It was just a very tiny bit of fiber. And when I took my wheel in there and everything, once we got it set up, they were like, here, just test it out, and you can use this little bit of rolag. And I was like, oh, I love these neons. And they're like, you can just have it. So I mixed that in with this as well to give some bright little pops. And this is the first bobbin. I have a second one that I just finished, and I'm going to try plying them together, hopefully this weekend or next week. But I was very, very excited about my first one, even though it's far from perfect. It's art yarn, it's a learning process, and I don't care if it comes out lumpy and I never do anything with it. I am having a blast learning how to use my new wheel. So that's what I have been working on. And like I said, I've been working on a few other things as well, but that's the majority of what I've been doing. And I'm still working on baby boy too. He's getting real big and real heavy these days, although I feel like I'm huge. And today at the hair salon, one of my longtime clients that I've had for over 10 years came in and said, "Oh, you're still so little." And I was like, "Really? Thank you." Because I feel like a walrus. So I'm really, really happy that apparently it's just in my head that I'm so big. But I hope you guys are having as nice of a weekend as I am planning to have. I have a lot of dyeing to do to prep for a trunk show that I'm doing. If you're in the Kansas City area next weekend, next Friday and Saturday, August 16th and 17th, I will be at the Studio Knitting and Needlepoint in Overland Park, Kansas. One of my favorite local shops because the staff there is the sweetest, kindest, most helpful staff you will ever meet. They're enthusiastic, they're lovely, they're great at teaching beginners, they're awesome at helping advanced knitters. They have gals in there who can help you untangle any problem you encounter with your knitting. Believe me, I've taken them some doozies and they have always helped. And I'm just really, really excited to be back because their customers are lovely, the staff is lovely, I always have such a good time there, and we sell a lot of yarn and talk a lot of yarn, and I get to knit and enjoy my day, so I'm super excited about that. And that is going to be my last trunk show before the baby gets here, so it's like a final hurrah for me. If you are looking to get me to come to your yarn shop, or you are a yarn shop owner who would like to either wholesale my yarns or have me out for a trunk show, I would love to talk with you. So please feel free to send me an email and let me know if you're a yarn shop owner. If you are not a yarn shop owner, but you would like me to come to your yarn shop for a trunk show, please, please, please give my information to your owner and ask them to email me. Even though I'm not traveling right now for maternity leave coming up, I am already looking into booking for next year. And I am definitely talking to shop owners, and I can continue to do wholesale orders even when I'm not traveling. So I'm working on a wholesale order right now, and I'm talking to a couple other shops about placing some orders before the baby gets here. I will be limiting what I can take on as far as wholesale right during the maternity leave, but right after that I'll be back in the swing of things, and that's something I can still do at home with a baby even before I'm out traveling on the road. But it is going to be really hard for me not to travel at all this fall, because fall is a great time to be traveling and seeing yarn shops and knitting and getting ready for Christmas and everything. So I'm a little bummed that that's happening. But I'm very excited about baby, of course, and I am actually kind of excited about a break too, because I travel a lot and I do a lot of shows, and I'm always looking to book the next thing, so I'm always kind of like living half in the future and half right now, and I'm kind of excited about being able to just slow down and not have to worry about it for a few months at least, and hopefully by next spring or summer I will be back into traveling around. So please let your yarn shops know that you would like to see my yarns there, and if they can't bring me out for a trunk show, maybe they can also do some wholesale orders or something like that. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you later. Be careful, don't fall down any stairs, and I'll try not to as well. It is now time to cast off. Love you.